I am Jarvis, your storyteller. Welcome to the Science Fiction Exploration. If you like the story, please subscribe to our channel. Dr. Elena Martinez stood before the Intergalactic Science Academy's High Council, her heart pounding beneath her standard-issue environmental suit. The massive amphitheater, carved from living crystal, housed some of the most brilliant minds in the known universe. Floating orbs of bioluminescent light cast a pale blue glow across the faces of dozens of alien species, some humanoid, others defying description. Professor Nyxis, a being composed of pure energy contained within an advanced containment field, spoke first. Dr. Martinez, your proposal to cleanse the oceans of Aquarius 9 is unconventional. The energy patterns within their form shifted to a deep purple, indicating skepticism. Elena straightened her shoulders, gesturing to the holographic display behind her. The image showed the once pristine waters of Aquarius 9, now clouded with industrial waste and chemical pollutants. With respect, Professor, conventional methods have failed. The planet's oceans are dying. The Aquarian species will face extinction within a decade if we don't act now. And you believe Earth's primitive coral systems hold the answer? This came from Dr. Quantumvex, a crystalline being whose thoughts moved at light speed. His tone carried the familiar dismissal Elena had faced throughout her career, the assumption that humanity's solutions were too simple for advanced problems. Not primitive, Elena corrected, her voice firm. Evolved. Earth's coral reefs have survived millions of years of environmental changes. They're natural filtration systems that adapt and evolve. What I propose is combining their resilience with Aquarius 9's native biology. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. A young alien student, Zix 427, whose quantum-based consciousness allowed them to process information in multiple dimensions simultaneously, leaned forward with interest. Unlike the others, they seemed intrigued rather than dismissive. The risks are unacceptable, declared Chief Scientist Helios, his solar-powered form pulsing with agitation. Your Earth-based solution could introduce invasive elements into Aquarius 9's ecosystem. We cannot gamble with an entire planet's biosphere. Elena activated another hologram, this one showing the complex molecular structure of her proposed solution. I've spent 3 years studying the interaction between Earth's coral systems and Aquarian biology. The hybridization process I've developed is completely controlled, using the planet's own chemical signatures as a foundation. She manipulated the hologram, expanding it to show the projected restoration timeline. Within 6 months, we could see a 30% reduction in toxic elements. Within a year, the oceans could be restored to 60% of their original state. Impossible, scoffed Dr. Quantumvex. Even our most advanced purification systems require decades to achieve such results. Because they fight against nature rather than working with it, Elena countered. Earth's ecosystems have developed sophisticated self-cleaning mechanisms. We don't need to reinvent the process. We need to enhance what already exists. Professor Nyxis's energy form flickered thoughtfully. Your confidence is admirable, Dr. Martinez, but the Council cannot authorize such an experimental approach without proof. Then give me one ocean sector, Elena proposed. Let me demonstrate on a controlled scale. If I'm wrong, the damage will be contained. If I'm right, we save not just Aquarius 9, but potentially any water-based planet facing similar contamination. The Council members communicated silently among themselves, their various forms of consciousness linking in ways Elena could only imagine. Finally, Professor Nyxis spoke again. You have 1 sector and 3 months, Dr. Martinez. If your solution fails, or if it shows any sign of damaging the existing ecosystem, we will terminate the project immediately. And you will never work on an environmental restoration project in this galaxy again. Elena nodded, accepting the terms. As she gathered her materials, Zix 427 approached her. Your theory is fascinating, they said, their quantum voice resonating on multiple frequencies. Would you accept an assistant for this project? I believe my ability to process multiple dimensional outcomes could be useful. Elena smiled, recognizing an ally in the young alien student. I'd be honored. We start tomorrow at dawn. As she left the chamber, Alina felt the weight of her challenge, but also the excitement of possibility. She had spent her career proving that humanity's connection to nature wasn't a weakness but a strength. Now she had 3 months to prove it to the galaxy. The research facility on Aquarius 9 rose from the polluted waters like a silver lotus, its petals housing various laboratories and containment units. Alina stood at the observation deck, watching the murky waves lap against the structure's base. Behind her, Zix 427's quantum form shimmered as they processed data from their latest simulation. The coral hybridization sequence is stable, Zix 427 announced, their consciousness projecting the results into a three-dimensional display. But the adaptation rate is slower than projected. At this pace, we won't meet the 3-month deadline. Alina studied the holographic data, her mind racing through possibilities. "We're thinking too linearly," she said, reaching out to manipulate the molecular structure displayed before her. "Look at how Earth's coral polyps form colonies. They don't just grow, they communicate, share resources, adapt collectively." Collective adaptation, Zix 427's form pulsed with curiosity. "Like a quantum network." "Similar but organic," Alina explained, pulling up footage from Earth's Great Barrier Reef. "When one coral colony discovers a successful adaptation, it can share that information through chemical signals. What if we enhance that capability in our hybrid species?" Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Quantumvex, his crystalline form refracting light across the laboratory. "The Council requires a progress report," he announced, his tone carrying its usual note of skepticism. Alina gestured to their latest data. "We're developing a communication network within the hybrid coral system. It will accelerate the adaptation process exponentially." "More Earth-based primitiveness," Dr. Quantumvex scoffed. "The Council is concerned that you're focusing on biological solutions when proven technological methods exist." "Those proven methods have failed on every water planet they've been tried on," Alina countered, her patience wearing thin. "The problem isn't just about removing pollutants, it's about restoring balance to the ecosystem." Zix 427 interjected, their quantum voice resonating with excitement. "Dr. Martinez's approach is fascinating. The biological communication network she's proposing operates on principles similar to quantum entanglement, but with organic flexibility that our technological solutions lack." Dr. Quantumvex's crystalline form darkened. "You're letting her Earth theories influence your quantum judgment, Zix 427. This project needs proper scientific oversight. I'm assigning a team of quantum engineers to supervise your work." Alina felt her heart sink, but she maintained her composure. "With respect, Doctor, additional oversight will only slow our progress. We have less than 10 weeks remaining." "That is not your concern," he replied dismissively. "The oversight team arrives tomorrow. I suggest you prepare your research for review." After he left, Alina slumped against the observation window. The polluted waters below seemed to mock their efforts. Zix 427 approached, their quantum form emanating sympathy. "He doesn't understand," Alina said softly. "Nature has spent billions of years perfecting these systems. We can't just override them with technology." "Then we won't," Zix 427 replied, their form brightening with determination. "I've been analyzing your Earth coral data across multiple quantum dimensions. There's something we haven't tried yet." They projected a new simulation, showing the hybrid coral's molecular structure interwoven with quantum-enhanced communication pathways. "What if we don't just enhance the natural communication network? What if we amplify it using quantum principles?" Alina straightened, her eyes widening as she understood. "A bioquantum network? That's brilliant. The coral would maintain its natural adaptation abilities but process and share information at quantum speeds." They worked through the night, combining Alina's knowledge of Earth's coral systems with Zix 427's quantum expertise. By dawn, they had created a new hybrid strain that merged biological resilience with quantum efficiency. "We need to test it now," Alina insisted, preparing a sample for insertion into their controlled ocean segment. Before the oversight team arrives, Zix 427 hesitated. The protocols require. The protocols were designed for purely technological solutions, Elena interrupted. This is different. We need to see how it behaves in its natural environment. They moved to the deployment chamber, a transparent tube extending into the polluted waters below. Elena held the container of hybrid coral polyps, each one glowing with a faint quantum signature. Ready? She asked, her hand hovering over the release mechanism. Zix 427's quantum form pulsed with nervous energy. The possibilities are uncertain. My calculations show multiple potential outcomes. Sometimes, Elena smiled, you have to trust in nature's wisdom. She pressed the button, releasing the hybrid coral into the waters of Aquarius 9. As they watched the polyps descend into the murky depths, neither of them could have predicted the extraordinary chain of events they had just set in motion. Events that would either save or destroy an entire world. The first signs of change appeared within hours. Elena and Zix 427 watched in amazement as their quantum-enhanced coral began to multiply, creating crystalline structures that pulsed with bioluminescent light beneath the polluted waters. The monitoring stations recorded a rapid decrease in toxicity levels, far faster than they had anticipated. The quantum network is accelerating adaptation rates beyond our projections, Zix 427 observed, their form flickering with excitement as they processed the incoming data. The coral colonies are sharing successful mutations almost instantaneously. Elena studied the real-time footage, her expression mixing wonder with growing concern. They're spreading faster than we calculated, much faster. She pulled up a holographic map showing the coral's expansion pattern. What should have taken weeks was happening in days. The laboratory door slid open, revealing the newly arrived oversight team led by Dr. Quantumvex. Their arrival coincided with an urgent alert from the monitoring system. "What have you done?" Dr. Quantumvex demanded, his crystalline form darkening as he absorbed the data. "You implemented an untested hybrid without authorization." "The results speak for themselves," Elena argued, gesturing to the purification readings. "The water quality in the test sector has improved by 40% in just 18 hours. "At what cost?" A new voice joined the conversation. Professor Nixis materialized in the laboratory, their energy form crackling with barely contained anger. "The quantum network isn't just sharing adaptations, it's evolving beyond our ability to monitor it." Elena turned back to the displays, her heart sinking as she processed the new data. The hybrid coral wasn't just cleaning the water, it was fundamentally altering the chemical composition of the ocean. The quantum enhancement had given it capabilities they hadn't predicted. "We need to shut it down," Dr. Quantumvex declared, already moving to activate the emergency protocols. "Wait," Zix 427 interjected, their quantum consciousness racing through calculations. "A sudden termination could trigger a cascade effect. The network has become too complex." Elena's mind raced through possibilities. The coral was operating on principles that merged natural evolution with quantum computing. Each colony was simultaneously processing and adapting to changes across multiple dimensional planes. But there was something else happening, something she recognized from Earth's natural systems. "Look at this pattern," she said, isolating a section of the data stream. "The coral isn't just cleaning the water, it's trying to restore balance. Like Earth's coral reefs, it's creating an entire ecosystem." Professor Nixis moved closer, their energy form analyzing the data. "The process is unstable if we cannot control it." A violent tremor shook the facility, interrupting their discussion. Through the observation windows, they watched in horror as massive crystalline structures began emerging from the water, their surfaces reflecting the alien sunlight in prismatic patterns. "The quantum network has achieved collective consciousness," Zix 427 announced, their form pulsing with a mixture of awe and fear. "It's not just adapting anymore, it's creating." Emergency alerts began blaring throughout the facility. The hybrid coral's growth had breached the test sector's boundaries, spreading into neighboring ocean zones. More concerning were the readings showing unusual energy signatures emanating from the largest formations. "The Council is convening an emergency session," Professor Nixis announced grimly. "They're considering implementing the planetary purge protocol." Alina's blood ran cold. The purge protocol would effectively sterilize the entire ocean, killing everything, including the planet's native species they had been trying to save. "There has to be another way," she insisted, frantically analyzing the data. "The coral is following natural patterns just at an accelerated rate, if we can understand its purpose." "Its purpose?" Dr. Quantumvex interrupted harshly. "It's an abomination, a dangerous merger of primitive biology and advanced quantum mechanics. The Council was right to doubt your methods." But Alina wasn't listening anymore. She had noticed something in the latest readings, a pattern that reminded her of something she'd studied years ago in Earth's coral reefs. During times of extreme stress, coral colonies could enter a state of suspended animation, waiting for conditions to improve. "Zix 427, she called out, her voice urgent. "Can you analyze the quantum signature of the largest formations? Look for any signs of phase transition." The quantum being's form brightened as they processed the request. "Yes, there's something. The network appears to be preparing for some kind of synchronized event." Another tremor rocked the facility, stronger this time. Through the windows, they watched as more crystalline structures rose from the depths, their surfaces now pulsing with complex patterns of light. "We have 6 hours before the Council implements the Purge Protocol," Professor Nixis warned. "Whatever you think you've discovered, Dr. Martinez, I suggest you work quickly." Alina nodded, her mind already racing through possibilities. She had wanted to prove that Earth's natural systems held answers to advanced problems. Now that theory would be tested. The research facility's emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across the laboratory as Alina and Zix 427 worked frantically. Outside, the quantum-enhanced coral structures had grown to towering heights, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with increasingly complex patterns of bioluminescence. They had less than 4 hours before the Council implemented the Purge Protocol. "The energy signatures are intensifying," Zix 427 reported, their quantum form stretched across multiple monitoring stations simultaneously. "The network is channeling massive amounts of power, but I can't determine the purpose." Alina stood before the main observation window, studying the mysterious formations. Years of research on Earth's coral reefs had taught her that nature rarely created anything without purpose. "These patterns," she murmured, "they remind me of something." Dr. Quantumvex burst into the laboratory, his crystalline form radiating anger. "The Council's decision is final. Evacuation ships are arriving now. This experiment is over." "Wait," Alina said, her eyes fixed on a new pattern emerging across the coral structures. "Look at how they're arranging themselves. It's not random, it's geometric, like a quantum processor," Zix 427 finished, their form brightening with sudden understanding. "The coral isn't just growing, it's building something." Alina's heart raced as pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. She pulled up historical data from Earth's Great Barrier Reef, comparing it to the current formations. On Earth, coral reefs don't just filter water, they create entire ecosystems. They provide structure, shelter, and support for thousands of species. "This is hardly the time for an Earth biology lesson," Dr. Quantumvex scoffed. But Zix 427 had already made the connection. "The quantum network isn't out of control, it's evolving according to a program. The same program that's been running in Earth's oceans for millions of years." Alina nodded excitedly. "But because we enhanced it with quantum capabilities, it's working at an unprecedented speed and scale. It's not just cleaning the water, it's rebuilding the entire marine ecosystem of Aquarius 9. A massive tremor shook the facility, stronger than any before. Through the windows, they watched in awe as the coral structures began emitting pulses of energy that rippled through the surrounding water. "The phase transition," Alina whispered, It's beginning. Data flooded their monitoring systems as the quantum coral network initiated its synchronized event. The energy signatures Zix 427 had detected were converging, creating a massive field that encompassed the entire test sector. Impossible, Dr. Quantumvex breathed, his skepticism finally cracking as he processed the readings. The contamination levels, they're dropping exponentially. Elena's fingers flew across the holographic interface, analyzing the process. The coral isn't just filtering the pollutants, it's converting them, using quantum principles to transform toxic compounds into building materials for the new ecosystem. And look at this, Zix 427 added, projecting a new data stream. The network is self-regulating. Once an area is purified, the coral enters a dormant state, exactly as you predicted. But their breakthrough was interrupted by Professor Nixis's sudden appearance. The Council is unmoved. They're initiating the purge protocol in 30 minutes. They can't, Elena protested. We're witnessing something revolutionary. The coral network isn't a threat. It's doing exactly what we designed it to do, just more efficiently than we imagined possible. Prove it, Professor Nixis challenged. In 29 minutes. Elena turned to Zix 427. Can you establish a quantum link with the coral network, if we can demonstrate that it's following a controlled program? The quantum being's form pulsed with determination. I can try, but interfacing with a biological quantum system this complex, it's never been done. We don't need to control it, Elena realized, watching the coral's mesmerizing patterns. We just need to understand it, to show that there's purpose in what appears to be chaos. They worked feverishly, Elena's understanding of natural systems combining with Zix 427's quantum expertise as they attempted to decode the coral's behavior. Dr. Quantumvex, despite his earlier skepticism, found himself drawn into their effort, his crystalline mind offering new perspectives on the data. With less than 5 minutes remaining, Zix 427 successfully established a tentative connection with the coral network. The laboratory's holographic displays exploded with information as the quantum coral shared its complete program, a blueprint not just for cleaning the ocean, but for restoring it to an even more vibrant state than before the pollution. By all the stars, Professor Nixis whispered, their energy form flickering with amazement as they processed the coral's plan. It's not destroying the ecosystem, it's evolving it. The facility trembled again, but this time it wasn't from the coral's growth. The Council's purge ships had arrived, taking position above the test sector. They had moments left to prevent catastrophe. The purge ships loomed over the facility like ancient predators, their weapons primed to sterilize the ocean below. Inside the laboratory, Elena faced the Council's holographic projections, her voice steady despite the countdown ticking away their final minutes. Look at these readings, she urged, projecting the coral network's complete blueprint into the center of the room. What appears to be chaos is actually perfect order. The quantum coral isn't just cleaning the water, it's restoring the planet's original ecosystem, using the pollutants themselves as building materials. High Counselor Vortex, a being of pure thought and energy, studied the data streams with ancient eyes. The patterns, they're familiar somehow. They should be, Elena explained, her passion evident in every word. They're based on the same mathematical principles that govern all life in the universe. The Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, patterns that appear in everything from Earth's coral reefs to the spiral arms of galaxies. Zix 427's quantum form pulsed with excitement as they projected new data. The network has already restored 60% of the test sector to pre-industrial conditions. But more than that, it's creating a sustainable system that will prevent future contamination. Through the observation windows, the quantum coral structures had begun to change. The crystalline formations were no longer growing upward but spreading outward, creating intricate lattices just beneath the water's surface. Where before the ocean had been a toxic brown, now it shimmered with subtle hues of blue and green. Impossible, one council member muttered. The contamination levels were too severe for such rapid restoration. Dr. Quantumvex, who had witnessed the transformation firsthand, stepped forward. "I was wrong about this project," he admitted, his crystalline form glowing with newfound humility. "What Dr. Martinez and Zix 427 have created isn't just a cleaning system, it's a revolution in planetary restoration." A sudden alert drew their attention. New life forms were appearing in the purified zones, native species that had been thought extinct, drawn to the revitalized waters. The quantum coral was creating perfect habitats for them, using its advanced processing power to reconstruct ecosystems that had been lost decades ago. "This is what Earth's coral reefs have been doing for millions of years," Alina explained softly. "They're not just animals building structures, they're architects of life itself. We simply gave them the tools to work faster, to heal what we've damaged." High Counselor Vortex raised a hand, and the ominous hum of the purged ship's weapons faded to silence. "Show us," they commanded. "Show us what will happen if we let this continue." Alina nodded to Zix 427, who interfaced directly with the coral network. The laboratory's holographic systems came alive with a projection of Aquarius 9's future, oceans teeming with restored life, pollutants transformed into beautiful, functional structures that would support and sustain the planet's biodiversity for millennia to come. "The coral network will continue its work until balance is restored," Alina explained. "Then, just like Earth's reefs, it will become part of the natural system, maintaining and protecting the environment it has helped create." Professor Nixis, who had watched the entire project unfold, turned to the council. "We sought to solve this crisis with pure technology, trying to force nature into submission. Dr. Martinez showed us a better way, working with nature, enhancing its own wisdom with our advanced capabilities." The council members communicated in silence for a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity. Finally, High Counselor Vortex spoke. "The Purge Protocol is cancelled. The project will continue under your supervision, Dr. Martinez, and—" They paused, their energy form shifting to a color Alina had never seen before. "We would like to discuss implementing this solution on other damaged worlds. Perhaps it is time we learned to listen to the wisdom of younger species." Alina felt tears in her eyes as she watched more native creatures emerge from the depths, drawn to the sanctuary the quantum coral had created. Beside her, Zix 427's form shimmered with joy as they processed the success of their partnership. "You know what this means," the quantum being said softly. "The merger of natural wisdom and advanced technology, it could restore countless worlds." "That's what humans do," Alina replied, smiling as she watched life returning to the once-dead waters. "We learn from nature's 4 billion years of experience, and then we find ways to help it work even better." Dr. Quantumvex approached them, his crystalline form glowing with newfound respect. "I believe I owe you an apology, Dr. Martinez, and perhaps a request. Would you be willing to teach some of us about Earth's other natural systems? It seems we have much to learn." As Alina began explaining the principles of Earth's interconnected ecosystems to her curious alien colleagues, she couldn't help but smile. Humanity had finally found its place in the galactic community, not as masters of the most advanced technology, but as students and translators of nature's ancient wisdom. Sometimes, she reflected, the most powerful solutions were the simplest ones, waiting to be discovered in the most unlikely places.